Nigeria is mourning the death of former President Muhammadu Buhari, a towering figure in the country's modern political history. Buhari, who served as both a military ruler and later a democratically elected president, passed away at the age of 82, prompting an outpouring of tributes from leaders across Africa and beyond.
Today, we mark and celebrate another peaceful transition of power from one elected government to another in our steady march to improve and sustain Nigeria's democracy. We must, as a nation, improve and sustain gains we made in the electoral process on an incremental basis for Nigeria to take its rightful place among nations.
Known for his tough stance on corruption and his polarizing economic and security policies, Buhari leaves behind a complex legacy that shaped Nigeria's path for decades.
I would like to use this opportunity to thank them for their partnership and support to the democratization process in Nigeria. Your doggedness in calling a spade in 2003, 2007, and 2011 have been greatly appreciated by us Nigerians who are dedicated to ensuring free and fair elections in our country.
In this video, we take a look back at his life, leadership, controversies, and the national response to his passing. Former President Muhammadu Buhari, aged 82, passed away in a London clinic on Sunday, July the 13th, 2025, at around 4:30 p.m, after battling a prolonged and undisclosed illness. Although his medical records were never officially confirmed, reports emerged later indicating that leukemia may have been a significant factor in his declining health. His repeated trips abroad for medical treatments whilst in office had drawn both sympathy and criticism, with some questioning the transparency and cost of his care overseas. Muhammadu Buhari was born on December 17, 1942, in Dora, Katsina State. After joining the Nigerian army at age 19, he participated in the Nigerian Civil War and subsequent military roles. In December 1983, he seized power in a coup, leading a military government until 1985. His rule was marked by strict discipline under the War Against Indiscipline and a strong anti-corruption stance. However, it was also characterized by human rights concerns and an authoritarian approach. In 2015, Buhari made a historic political comeback as Nigeria's first opposition candidate to defeat an incumbent, unseating President Goodluck Jonathan. His presidency, lasting 2 terms, was defined by his ongoing anti-corruption drive, discipline in public service, and an austere personal lifestyle.
I recall with nostalgia our last meeting at this institute in 2015, shortly after I assumed office, following my victory in the historic general election that witnessed a seamless transition of government from an incumbent ruling party of 16 years and People's Democratic Party to a young, upstart opposition party, the All Progressive Congress. You will recall that the election in 2015 in Nigeria were adjudged to be free, fair, and by both the domestic and international election observers. That visit in 2015 offered me the opportunity to underscore the significance of the attestation by the international elections observer groups, the credibility of those elections, its demonstration effect, and the impact such as for peace, not only in Nigeria, but in the sub-region and the continent, hence a major contribution to international peace and security. Instability in Nigeria has grave consequences, not only for Africa, but the whole world. That first interaction with you in 2015 also afforded me the opportunity to unveil the vision and focus of our administration in three critical areas, namely security, economy, and fighting corruption.
However, economic difficulties surfaced during his administration, including multiple recessions, inflation, currency shortages, and a decline in oil production.
With the amount of knowledge the Americans have about the situation in Nigeria and their willingness to help in stabilizing the situation in the country and moving quickly, again, to help us reconstruct the infrastructure, especially schools, health centers, roads, and then investments in agriculture, power, and water resources.
Security threats such as Boko Haram insurgencies and rising bandit activities also increased during his tenure. On Monday, July the 14th, Vice President Kashim Shettima, along with senior government officials, travelled to London to make arrangements for Buhari's body to be repatriated. A federal delegation led by the security to the government was assembled to organise his funeral, and President Bola Tinubu announced a 7-day national mourning period. All national flags across the country were lowered to half-mast, and a public holiday was declared for the day of the funeral. Buhari's casket, draped in the Nigerian flag, arrived in Katsina on Tuesday, July the 15th, where it was received by President Tinubu, Vice President Shettima, military officers and supporters. A ceremonial military parade and 21-gun salute took place on the tarmac before the coffin was transported approximately 80 kilometres to Dora with a full military guard and solemn hymns. Thousands of mourners gathered along the route, chanting Sai Baba in tribute to their former leader. Islamic funeral prayers and the final burial took place in Buhari's home compound in Dora, according to his faith's rites. His grave was dug in the backyard of his residence, and dignitaries, including President Tinubu, attended and paid their respects. Foreign and national leaders commended Buhari's integrity and patriotism, whilst also acknowledging the complexity of his legacy. As Nigeria mourned, it also reflected on Buhari's multifaceted legacy. He was remembered by some as a symbol of discipline and honesty in a nation plagued by corruption, but criticised by others for his lack of strong economic reforms, security failures, and occasional authoritarian measures. His 6-decade career, from military dictator to democratically elected president, left a lasting imprint on Nigeria's political landscape.